Thank you. Uh, Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank organizers of PyCon Columbia 2020 giving me an opportunity to share my work. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. Today, I'll be talk on inclusive language and writing using Python. In today's talk, we will discuss about the motivation, how I started this project, concepts of inclusiveness in language in our life, then basic concepts of natural language processing because it's a based project, then flow diagram of the application, then building a data set, then tools for extracting information from various file formats, then finally the conclusion and questions. Now, how this project got started. So what has happened was I was delivering lots of talks, and in one of the talks I had used the few words from the documentation of one package. uh, I was not aware of inclusive uh, terminology or glossary of inclusive language. After the talk, one person from the audience he raised the objection of certain words used in the presentation. Okay, uh, so I was not using uh, the exclusionary word purposefully. Then I thought, okay, knowingly or unknowing, I had used the word, so uh, I had to do something about it. So I thought that okay, let's create a project on this and let's help people so that they can adopt inclusive language in their daily use. That's project started. Now, see what is inclusive language. So, inclusive language is that conveys respect to people, sensitive to differences, promotes and promotes equal opportunities. So, this is the definition given by linguistic of America. So, you can see that uh, it means to uh, whenever we are addressing or whenever we are uh, calling any person's name or whenever we are addressing any person or group, it should be inclusive. We should not be just talking to one person or certain set of people in a classroom or in a hall. Then there is one more by dictionary.com that says that language avoids the use of certain expressions or words that might be considered to exclude particular of people, especially gender specific words, such man, mankind, and masculine pronouns, and use of which might be considered to exclude women. So you might have seen such example with respect to um, profiles. So we had there are positions such as chairman, where only man is there. Right? Similarly, there are some positions where that foreman, right? Again, only man is right. So these are all gender specific. We see all these, even the designations which are gender specific, but gender specific are not the only words which are exclusionary. So we'll see some examples of such exclusionary words. Now, why it is difficult to always use inclusive terms? Is the context. Some situations we use exclusionary words. Some situation means, uh, say, for literary works. Say, for example, there is an author who is writing a book or who is writing a novel, and in that case, he is or she is uh, showcasing some character. So in that case, it may become necessary to use exclusionary words which are associated with that particular characters. So maybe in some film or in drama, right? So there are characters which in that case it becomes necessary for them to exclusionary words. So you can't avoid them. Right? Then second one is the cultures. So terms that seem fine in one culture seem offensive in other culture. Right? Right. So this is the most common issue. Say for example, I live in a state where there are you can say two parts. In one part, we say you can say words just like an adjectives, but in other state not considered as an or good words, so they are considered as abusive words. Then language itself is ambiguous. Then the most important factor is the lack of awareness, right? Many people, they don't want to exclusionary words just because they want to use it. They are not aware of it. Okay, so if they were aware of those words, they may try to avoid using those exclusionary words. Lack of awareness is also one important factor. Now on this slide you can see few examples where I have mentioned few exclusionary words and how you can make it or how you can make them inclusive. Now first, when you can say that I was picking gender specific roles, right? So chairman, so how make it uh, inclusive is instead of using the term man, replace it with person. Then similarly master or slave, right? So these can be replaced with leader or follower, primary or replica, right? You might have noticed that GitHub has replaced uh, now instead of master brand, main brand, right? Now there are some more terms like white and blacklist can be allowed list, deny list. So instead of man hours, we can have person hours or engineer hours or whatever, depending on the designation or the roles. Then similarly, instead of guys, we can have folks or people. Then instead of dummy value, we can have placeholder value or value. So instead of bad guy, we can have suspect. So these are only words. These are few examples. If you visit the link here and if you visit the JSON file, we have listed around 200 plus words, and you can also contribute to that list and add your own words if you are aware of any such exclusionary word and alternate inclusive word. If that is not there in the list, you are free to add it. Now there are some concepts which are required, which are specific to natural language processing, and since it is a NLP project, we need to understand the basic concepts. So first, tokenization. So here we is basically tokenize the large text into words and sentences. Then there are few more concepts like word embeddings where we represent the words into vectors. Then completion, we try to predict the next few words. Of course, it is not required for this project. Then similarly, in similarity, we compute the similarities between two sentences. Then normalization, we text into canonical form. Basically, we convert it into a unified form. Then transliteration, here we write the text in language A script using the language B script. In translation, the text in A to language B. Phonetics deals with how to correct sound. Then syllable convert the text into syllables. Of course, we are not going to use all these concepts. Then in lemmatization, convert words into their root form. Stemming, we just remove last few characters from the word. So both are different, right? Stemming, both are different. Okay. We may not get the word with respect to stemming, but we accurate root word with respect to lemmatization. Then in language detection, we try to detect the language of the text or words. Then in dependency parsing, we analyze the grammar of a sentence. Then in named entity recognition, we recognize the entity's text. Is it a location or whatever? So based on, we can try to identify the uh, context. Then in part of speech tagging, we tag the part of speech in a text. So these are the base of natural language processing, which are required in the text processing phase. Okay, so depending on requirement, depending on problem we are solving, we may have to use few of them or all of them. Now the flow diagram of the application. So what happens here is we supply the input text, and this text will be pre-processed. So how we pre-process the text, so those concepts we have seen in the previous slide, right? So text is not the only thing, right? We can get input from this also. We have images, we have audio, we have video. So we have to extract the text from image and audio, and then process. It depends. We can give just the text as the input, or we can give uh, the content which has text as well as image and tables and etc. After pre-process, we need the text for it terms. Now why we need to do pre-processing is that in pre-processing stage we are going to clean the data, we are going to remove all unwanted terms, right? So after pre-processing, we get less work for further processing. That affects the performance of the application, because it improves the application. Now in our data set, we have exclusive terms and its corresponding inclusive terms, right? So whenever we find exclusive term, then there may be a possibility that for a single exclusionary term there may be multiple inclusive terms. Okay, so it's like a grammar. So you might have worked with MS Word, or you might have worked with any other grammar suggestion tool like Grammarly. So you may be aware how they work, right? So whenever there is a sentence, there is a text, if there is any typographic mistake or if there is any grammatical mistake, right, it suggests multiple suggestions, right? So whatever you feel is correct, you can select that. So see here, this is a better idea because software cannot directly replace the terms because of the ambiguous nature of the human language or natural languages. Okay. Then after this, it can compute the inclusivity score, right? So how much percent is inclusive, how much it has done. So again, there is no perfect result. We need to go on building the data set. Now, now this was the screenshot. So my students are working on this project, right? So still with development project, you can see here that they had the text as he's a policeman, and in the it has a policeman with police person. Okay. Now there is a challenge here. So we know how many, or in the entire world, how many such designations will be there which end with man. So we cannot just perform simple string search and replace option here, right? We need something uh, very good strategy or algorithm here. So one point is that you can use expressions. So in that way you have more terms, just simple string search replace. Let us see packages which are used to extract text from audio or image. Package called as speech recognition, which will help us to extract the text from audio file. So it's a library for performing recognition, supports various engines and APIs, and it works both off online and offline. So you can see here that it supports uh, popular such as Google speech recognition, then wit.ai, then Microsoft voice recognition, IBM speech to text, and so on. Now this is how, so you can install speech recognition library by using pip command and import speech recognition library, then specify the input file, initialize organizer, then open file and convert the data, that is speech data, to text, and finally you can print the text or you can store it somewhere for further processing. Then similarly there is a package called as Python. So it helps you to extract text from an image file. Okay, it's a basic extract uses optical character technology, and Python extract is written for Python language. So similarly, extract engine is available for other languages. It will recognize and read text embedded in the images. It's a wrapper for Google's extract OCR engine. So it's also as a standalone invocation script to extract. It can read all image types supported by Pillow and Lepta imaging libraries. So these are Python's image processing libraries, including PNG and other formats. So additionally, if it is used as a script, Python tesseract will print the recognized text instead of writing it to a file. So depending on your requirement, you can either, or you can store it in some way, or you can redirect the output to file. But in our case, it is important that it writes the output to a file or store it in some variable. Now this is a very simple code which helps us to extract the text from an image file. So import the PyTest module, and then image path, pass the image path to PyTest function, and then use the image to string function. Then similar package beautiful soup. So it helps us to extract the information from a web page. So it's a library that makes it easy to scrape information from web pages. That is, if you want for any web page, if it has got any exclusionary terms, then we can do that by using beautiful soup. Then it sits on top of HTML or XML parser, provides Pythonic idioms for iterating, searching, and modify the parse tree. So this is how we extract information from a web page. The problem with this is that we just can't extract. It extracts actually the source. Okay. So again, images are ignored. So we may have to combine the source code of beautiful with PyTest and then get the output. Then there is a library, so it's a ready to use optical character recognition with 80 plus supports popular writings including English, Chinese, Nagari, Cyrillic, etc. So its demo link is available here. So it is also integrated into Hugging Face uh, using. So Gradio helps you to build learning models and build the user interfaces for your learning models. Then the repository of easy OCR is also mentioned here, so you can click on this later, or you can use these links and check the. Now how these things are useful, right? Tesseract and easy OCR. Now let's assume a scenario that there is an advertisement which has been on social media or in newspaper, which has got some exclusionary, right? So in that case we need to extract the text from the advertisement or from a poster. So in case easy OCR and pyte extract will. Now there is a library called as LP library. This is specific to Indian languages, right? So India is a very diverse country. So it has many languages, RN languages, Dravidian languages, and others. Indic NLP library supports many of the languages, and these languages are required, or this library is required if you want to uh, exclusionary words in the local language in India. So we don't want to just focus on international languages, but we also need to focus on languages. So we are concentrating on Indic NLP library. So SPACY, as most of you know, it is the industry standard tool for natural language processing. So it supports 66 plus languages, then 73 trained pipelines for 22 languages. It supports mass learning with pre-trained formats like BERT, pre-trained word vectors, then production ready linguistically motivated tokenization, right? And it also supports customs in Python, TensorFlow, and other frameworks, right? It- It's a very wonderful library. So we use library like space to get more sophisticated output, and most importantly the performance. And you can see here that the most important whatever we have seen in our basic principles of NLP, such as recognition, stacking, dependency parsing, then sentence segmentation, text classification, lemmatization, logical analysis, entity linking. So all available in space. Uh, so So finally, we'll see some useful links. So on this slide, there are a few useful links. You can refer these links. Right. So first is the article. It's a very nice. It explains what is inclusive language, what are the different categories. Right. We had seen only gender specific or color specific or race specific exclusionary words, but it has got a very good example, few more categories. Then there is something called as an incomplete guide to language for startups and tech. Then guidelines for inclusive language by Lingusociety. Then inclusive language guide from Northwestern University. Then there are few more guidelines. Actually, it's a very nice guideline given by APA, that is American Psychological Association. Then I was speaking about words have power, avoid exclusionary job advertisements. So I suggest everyone to read this article because it's very useful information. Then finally, the summary is that we need to create awareness among people regarding how to use inclusive language. Many people may not be of it. So best thing we can do is we can include it at the school level, and when accept assignments from, we can also check for inclusiveness. Just like how we check for plagiarism, we can also check for inclusiveness. So that will create more awareness. Then we need more software tools in real time for inclusive language. We need to develop it like Grammarly. Then if you want to contribute, the GitHub link is given here, so you can visit there and contribute. You are free to clone and further. Thank you everyone for listening to my talk. If you have any questions, you can ask. Thank you.